Hello everyone, this is Short Shifted. I hope you're all having a good day. Um, you're going to see me attempt to play Motorsport Manager using the Manufacturer's Cup mod created by Lonewolf Commander. He did a fantastic job with this and I love the concept. I helped him out a little bit, and in my recording I actually failed to record my voice. So this is kind of a voiceover and I'm trying to merge tracks, so we'll see how this all goes out. So um, starting at the beginning here, we are taking a look at the car. I ended up taking the middle sponsor for the high marketability in the hopes that that would land me better sponsors and end up being better in the long run. So in any event, moving forward, went after a couple of contracts for mechanics and lead designer, and thankfully Naomi Matthews is the one that signed up for it, but I considered going with another female designer, but went ahead in the end and stuck with Naomi. Now, was having some problems with Kitagawa and trying to get something worked out. So I'm currently trying to negotiate, hopefully just below maximum, to get her. Now, moving on from there, checking back on the car, I keep bouncing back and forth, checking on progress, because these default mechanics are just absolutely terrible. So, hoping that I can get these parts up and running as quickly as possible, just getting bare minimum results. Now, the only difference that Lone Wolf and I have in our series is that I actually have a DLL file, the assembly-C# file, modified for what is mainly my True Endurance mod. And so I've got things like simulation speed is upped. I know that when you're looking at that, you can see the 20x, 30x, 40x. Well, my 40x is actually 90x. And then when you're in the race, you'll see the play button 2x, 4x, 12x. Well, my 4 is actually a 6. My 2 is really closer to a 3. And my 12x is actually an 18. I've actually gotten that up to about 21x speed, but it's maybe my limitation of my laptop, and it may just be the limitation of the sim. I don't know, but that's about seemingly where I cap out, even though I've tried 24. So you'll see some of that in this, because I'll be zipping through. Something else that I've got in here is the auto low mode for engine and pushing whenever there's a yellow flag and whenever the car enters the pit lane. Those are a couple more aspects. I've also developed a no micromanagement and a no macro management variant of this, so that for my endurance mod, when you're trying to do a 12-hour race and you don't want to sit there and keep flipping back and forth between settings, it's quite helpful. So in any event, otherwise everything else is going to be the same. We're using the same files with the same values, and it's just going to be a matter of whatever the simulation decides to throw at us, since it is quite a bit of random numbers in there. So moving on, we've got the parts upgraded a little bit. We are going through the sponsors, trying to find something that would help us out here, because we are going to run out of cash if we continue at the rate we're going. So, finding a couple sponsors that I like, trying to avoid ones where I've only got one option, and I'm debating on this, waiting for maybe do I wait for the third? And you also notice my numbers aren't round. Well, this was another feature of my mod, is that the offers can be available for one race or two races, and the other thing is there's a multiplier. That is because the AI does not effectively use the finances. So the AI have a multiplier on their finances to hopefully get them moving and create more of a challenge, because they'll be able to spend more money. And the player actually is a bit of a handicap, and it's also kind of randomizes the numbers so that you'll get the same sponsor between different playthroughs, but the dollar amounts will vary just ever so slightly, so make it a little bit more of a challenge in my mind. One more way to make it a challenge. And then the final challenge is going to be the setup, which I'm actually going to use a perfect setup mod, but the other thing is that I used Flaming Red's mod as a base, and basically the setup indicators aren't there unless you have a near perfect setup. So as you can see, I'm now working through a front wing iteration, and hopefully we can get this thing going. I think we've got that there. One new sponsor, so now I've got two. So let's just do some quick math here on this, and I think Peach Plum is going to be the better option. So, looking good at $13.5 million in the bank right now, though it's all going to go away. Goes away faster than any of you realize. So, looking over the car, checking the sponsors. Glad to see that I've got at least 2-star sponsor appeal. So, we're right here at the race. These parts, that front wing, that is absolutely terrible. This is what makes the Create Your Team such a challenge, is because you're pretty much starting at near zero values, while the rest of the series is well above the series minimum and working their way towards a reset. And you've got to try to take off from ground zero, which I don't think is quite fair. I'll tell you that in that situation, you shouldn't be allowed to enter the series if you're going to have basically some duct tape and baling wire attached to your car in order to get it on the track. Each series has a minimum value, and really the cars should be at that minimum value. No questions asked, because in real life that's a safety issue. So I am working on modding that. I'm not going to use it in this one, but in my endurance mod that's going to be a feature, and I think several other mod makers have gone down that road, because there's making a challenge, and then there's making it ridiculous, because the disparity between the values. I mean, there's absolutely no way. I mean, it's one thing to finish last, it's one thing to finish a couple laps down, but man, you can be 15 minutes off in my in a 6-hour race in my endurance mod. So as you see here, this is the 40X, which is actually the 90X, ripping through. I've got some knowledge gained. I've got some bonuses working for me, and you'll see I think I had a 97% and a 99%. So no qualifications, we're going to jump straight into the race. Luckily I only have to get 13th or above to try to get the bonus. Looking at the weather, fairly consistent around 60 degrees. So I've only got super soft and race trim as my options. So I'm going to check. You've got to start off pushing, otherwise you've got no chance. So even though super soft, I believe, is the faster compound, it also, the durability is just terrible, and I'm going to need to take as few pit stops as possible. So I don't think I'll be able to stretch this thing out. I'd like to try and do a one stop, but I don't think that's going to be possible. So I'm just going back in, flipping over. This is Anthony's going to be even worse. So there we go, softs. Double checking my options. And now, something I like to do, knowing that I'm going to get lapped, I might as well take a lap of fuel out and save myself, give myself a little bit of an advantage speed-wise, because I will save that 0.15 of a second, at least initially, because I will be down on fuel to everybody else. Now, Nexus mod has a nice little high-res mod for it. And if you see this, you'll see the sponsor on the car. That's because it pulls from a different model, the model that you see while you're in the menus and moving around with your team. So that's a nice feature. Plus, if you notice the car, you can see if the tires are rotating, which is something that Motorsport Manager doesn't do by default. And as the car goes for a turn, the tires are actually turning. It looks like a turn. So it's a nice feature that I enjoy having with this. It brought a whole new life to the game. It almost made it feel like Motorsport Manager 2, the way that came out. As you see, little mistake there by Gomez. And then Gomez is out. All my eggs are now in one basket. One car remains. Can't believe they're doing the last 3 laps. All the effort to put into this point. Anyway, you're probably tired of hearing me talk. There's the saying, he's got a face for radio. Well, I feel like I've got a voice for silent films. So, hopefully you can bear with me. And as you see now, there's another accident. 2 cars out at the same time, necessitating a safety car. So, with that, I'll go ahead and just ensure that I am on the low settings, debating about whether to pit. That's another thing I haven't been able to figure out. I can't stand every single time there's a yellow flag. If they're in the pits and they come out, they ask, should we go in for pit calls? Yeah, it's a little annoying. I'd like to get rid of it, but I can't seem to figure out where that is either. So there's some future projects I'd like to work on, but for now, we're just going to sit here and stare gloomily at Gomez, who's sitting in the pits. Overshot the turn and crashed it. Just a few laps in. So, really, we got to focus on Anthony. That's going to be our thing at this point. We've got to get Anthony to the finish line. Hopefully, try to scrounge a couple points out of this, because this is going to be our tent. This is our team that we are taking forward to try to become the greatest race team in the world. Our Spitfire Aston Martin will become the greatest team in the world. So, continuing, poor timing on that. Probably should have tried to pit under yellow, but it just wasn't quite lining up with the way I wanted things to fall out. So, as you'll see, got another crash. I did increase the crash rate, and there is a nice part-wearing mechanic that can cause cars to fall out of the race due to durability issues, parts failing, forced retirements. If you notice, there's been several cars that have come into the pits to repair their parts. These things that are wearing out. It is the first race of the season, and so that is going to happen. Theoretically, everything should get better as the season wears on. Luckily, we're doing okay so far. I'm actually quite pleased that Anthony's gotten herself up into 9th. And that name is fake Anthony, by the way, so definitely gotta have faith. So as you see, the engine's not doing so hot, the rear wing's starting to fall apart too, but we're trying to hold it together. We're almost 2/3 of the way through the race, hanging on. Anthony's doing her level best. Right now, holding her 9th place. Oh, we've bumped up to 7th. Someone else was in the pits. So now I'm letting them auto ERS. So let's see. That said random lag, but I thought she kept playing, and I'm glad she did. They did call her for random lag because kept playing. I'm sure she wouldn't have done this. So I got lucky on that one. And again, look at that model. The tires moving, rotating, beautiful. So we're going to call her into the pits for her final pit stop of the evening. Sitting here in 12th. Hopefully we come back out in 12th. There's a nice gap to 13th, so I think we're in good shape. But we're going to have to repair. So now we're looking at 15th place. Yeah, we really should take care of both parts. So we're going to be sitting 15th or 16th place. Oh. And I'm going to risk going ahead and charging the ERS just slightly. Now, I probably should have just been on single speed, or even 2x, to time out the use of the ERS a little bit better, but as you see, there's no message that one of the cars having mechanical issues, someone's being investigated for some sort of penalty, corner cut, Rogers corner cut. And I will say that that penalty is actually enforced because I went in, again, editing the DLL. I've actually got my DLL. The penalties are actually on the harsh side. The GMA is a little bit stricter in my series. They don't let you get away with much. I believe I've got it set to 48-52 balance instead of a 50-50. It could go either way. So it's a little bit 48 for letting it slide and 52 to penalize it. So I'd be surprised how much that seems to change things. It's coming from 50-50 balance. Anyway, now the engines go put on here. But we've only got about 4 laps to go, so I'm going to hope Faith can hold this thing together. So I'm not going to push the engine at this point because that is a feature. That is the higher engine mode you use, the higher the calculation is on how much wear and tear is done to the engine, the brakes. And here we go. This surprised me. Edda joins Datu. I hope I'm not butchering that Icelandic name, but crashing with 3 laps to go. I don't find that there's a lot of crashes this late in the race. I was a little surprised at that. And the fact that I've got to go in for an engine repair. I'm going to go ahead and just switch it over to the softest compound that we actually have the bonus on. Super softs. Go for the fast pit stop. And hope, above all else, that this works. Now, it's only a virtual safety car. It's not the thing, full safety car, but everybody's got to slow down. And it was right there at the time, so I figured this was about perfect. Now, what worried me is that notice went away. But we're back out. We're in 16th. We're going to pass. Wrecked car. And here we are, last 110 seconds behind the leader and basically 30 seconds behind 13th place. So all that promise without their players. It's tough when you're a new team. So coming around final turns. Again, I probably should have slowed it down to better manage the ERS, but here we are across the line, 15th place. On the plus side, it can be proud that we held it off and kept it just under 110 seconds behind. Because as much as we've been losing time throughout the race, we could have easily slipped to 120. So I guess I can take the positive from that. So ends the race. Now, scrutineering happens really quick in mine. I changed the timing on that. And we're off and off. And there we are, sitting last. Oh well. So, loading screen, and what do we take from this? Where do we go? Well, I've got to look. Drivers are not a huge concern, but I do need to start looking. Mechanics, I need to get mechanics lined up. Oh, almost 750,000 lost. That. But it is what it is. So, something I like to check on is just how the other series did. See, there we go. We had one crash at Doha in the WMC. So, wrapping up some of the paperwork after the race is over. Nunez, be kind of a nice driver because he's easy on fuel, but man, the rest of his stats are terrible. Pit crew. I forgot that the values from the vanilla game are just so ridiculous. So one mistake is going to knock this pit crew to pieces. So we've got one driver scouted, and at this point I think we're pretty much going to call it for the first episode in trying to do this little experiment here. So thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you later.